Thank you all very much for taking the time to see Pictavo here. My name's Rory. I'm with Pictavo Support, and I'm going to be taking you through the basics of using Pictavo here, just kind of showing you all the cool stuff Pictavo can do and getting you up to speed on that. So, what you're seeing here on my screen, this is what you're going to see when you first log into Pictavo. We're not going to spend a lot of time here because you won't spend much time here either. This is really just kind of a place where we put some very, helpful information throughout the year. Like we got a nice little list of our keyboard shortcuts here that we're having because that's a big question. But you'll see this update to just good information to get all the way through. But what we're really going to focus on here is build my book and manage my book. So these are the areas where you can go to just kind of from this to kind of get into different parts of the book. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go through all of these, but I'm going to start under manage my book and then advisor center. Now, Advisor Center is something that you will have access to as an advisor. When we go through first here, creating accounts, you'll be able to give access to this area to people who are just regular users on your book, and I'll go through that. But the first thing that you're going to see here when you go in is just these project specifications. Now, this just kind of gives you a quick overview, kind of where your book is at, how things are going, what you're signed up for. If you need to make any changes to this information, just let your rep at Coffee Pond know, and they can work with you on that. We're going to go over here under Advisor Center. And we're going to start here in user management. Now, this is an area some of you may not be going into. If you're the only person working on your book, this part won't apply to you. But for those of you who have teams, who have helpers, this is where you're going to go to create accounts for other people to log into your book. Now here I've got this kind of pre-populated with a list of just different people. If you go in here and you're a new advisor and you already see people in here, just know that we bring these accounts over year. That way you don't got to keep entering in the same names, at the beginning of every year. If you have somebody who has an account and you need to edit their permissions, you can just click on a little check mark next to their name and then click edit up here at the top. Now that'll bring up this same screen that you would also see if you had gone in and simply clicked on new user. Just so I don't got to try to type and talk at the same time here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up just one of my existing users here, and just know that whether you're creating an existing account or creating a new account or editing an existing account, it's going to have the same interface. So here, for example, if you were going through and creating a new user, you would put in their email, you would put in their name, and you would choose a password for them. Now, it just has to be kind of the same password requirements as yours, the strong password, but you can pick anything you want on that. The user after that can change that by going into their profile or using the forgot password link, but you have to just give them a starting password to get in for the first time. You can also put users into groups. Now, a group of users, kind of what I have set up here, where if you have, say, 5 or 10 users who all need the same permissions, then you can create groups in order for them to just have those same permissions automatically. For those of you who are kind of now asking yourselves, should I use groups? My kind of general advice is, unless you have more than, say, 20 users, kind of where I draw the line in the sand. At 20 users, that's where groups can start to make sense. If you've got a smaller team, say, 1, 2, 3, 5, maybe even up to 10 people, I don't think it saves you a lot of time to use groups. If any of you would like to know more about groups, I'm more than happy to go over that in Q&A at the end. For now, though, I'll just say that's an option. If you don't put a user in a group, then you'll choose the permissions for that user on this next screen here. And just like emails and passwords, any of these permissions, page assignments, this can all be edited anytime. So what we generally recommend is, if you're not sure what permissions to give a user, start small, and then if they find themselves kind of bumping up against that, they're having to or wanting to do things that you're not allowing on the permissions, You can always go back in here with just a couple of clicks and add those in. That being said, there is no right or wrong answer for what permissions to assign to users. If you want to assign every permission to a user, fully supported in the system, absolutely. My one piece of advice as a kind of somebody who's been experienced with this here is to be a little careful about giving anyone anything with the word delete in it. That's where they can actually go through, clear things out, and they're gone from the system entirely. You'd have to, upload it again or recreate it or something like that, depending on what was deleted. So we always advise to be a little careful about that. But at the same time, if you trust that person, you know they're not going to do something like that. There's no necessary harm in giving them any of these permissions. And then once you've chosen permissions, on the last step here, you will assign them to individual pages. Now, when you first come in here, this area will be blank, and you'll then have to choose which pages, including the cover or practice pages, if you have those created, you want the users to be able to go in and edit. Bear in mind, by default, no matter what choice you make here, the users will be able to see all of the pages in the book, but they will only be able to edit the pages that you specifically say they should. Now, if you want to do what I just did there, select pages, select all to give them access to everything, absolutely valid way to work. A lot of our users will do that. But if you have users who you might not necessarily trust as much, maybe we're working with kids where you want to keep their choices a little more bounded, you can certainly go in and just give them specific page editing access. When thinking about page editing, the one piece of advice I would give is always try to assign pages with spreads next to each other. That is, when you're opening up, say, pages 2 and 3 or 4 and 5, those pages will be side by side in the book. And the user, if they're, say, assigned to 4 but not 5, can absolutely switch into single page view, which I'll go over for how to only see the one page. However, the reality of the printed book is those pages are going to print side by side, so you really do want to coordinate one to the other. So we tend to recommend that users go through and assign whole spreads together, although the system doesn't enforce that because we trust you to make the best calls with what you're doing in the book there. In this case, I'll just select all to give this user access to everything. And then when I press save, now that user is created or that user's permissions are updated. If this were a new user, they'd be ready to log in. You could just tell them, go to the same place you go to log in, use your email, use this password that you set up for them, and they'd be able to get in. You can also check the box to the left of their name and then click this send message button up here, and it will actually tell you that their account has been created and is ready to go. So you have the option of sending that directly from within the software as well. Um, Now, once your users get in, start working, start doing things, you're also going to see what you see on the main screen here, which is just a quick snapshot of how much they're working, what they're doing, and how much time they're spending in the program. When we get into the ladder in just a little bit, I'll show you how you can get some really granular detail on this. So those of you who may be working with a yearbook class where you're grading based on effort, if you want to see what people are doing, I'll show you how you can get a lot of really great information about that. But this area just kind of serves as just a snapshot, a way to say, wow, this person is really, Olivia is really doing great. Logged in 62 times, 50 pages, saves 17 total hours. But, Rory here, he's not doing so great. Only logged in 4 times, hasn't saved a page, only spent an hour logged in. So it kind of can help you initially go, hey, where do I need to focus my attention? And where can I, then we can go into the ladder and actually dive in. Now, that is one part of kind of advisor center and kind of the book setup. But the last part I want to go to is in this book setup area here. We have the option of doing a number of different setup options here. So in here, you can enable or disable things like grids and guides on the page, enable or disable which fonts you use, set character styles, which I'll go over on the pages as well, choose your colors, choose which templates appear, and how your page numbers look. For the most part, you won't have to adjust anything here except for going into fonts and enabling the fonts you want to use. So in fonts, you can go in and you'll have, by default, you'll have access to our Helvetica New, and then you can choose which fonts you want to use in the book. You can also go in, if it's easier, and simply select them all, as I'm doing here, just turning everything on. A number of our users find that having them all in the list alphabetically can be a little daunting. It makes it harder to find the options you want, so we disable them by default. But as you're seeing here, if you just want access to everything, it takes you just a few seconds to go in and turn everything on. We do recommend, and one of the big reasons we do this is that this is not a requirement, but one of the keys to making a great looking yearbook, and I'll kind of go over some tips and tricks for that as we go through, and this is kind of the first one here, is you really want consistency in your book. That is, you don't want to be using a different font on every page. You don't want to have your headlines on one page be Allegria and your headlines on a different page be Century Gothic. It's not something that, a lot of people can articulate, but as they're going through, they'll notice that kind of mismatched kind of thing going on there, different sizes, things like that. We have the character styles area, which I'll go over on the pages to help ensure consistency. But what we really recommend is kind of looking through here, picking out just a few fonts to use throughout your book, maybe one for your headlines, one for any body copy, because that can really give you a nice consistent look throughout the book. Now, I've kind of mentioned a lot of stuff about the book setup, but what I want to do now is shift gears just a little bit, and I want to dive into actually getting content and creating a book, because that's really where you're going to spend the bulk of your time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over into organize photos here, and you can get here from the main page. You could go to click on home, go to organize photos, or you can go right here and click on. So I'm going to click on just photos here, because this is where you're going to go, or your team is going to go, to upload all of the images that make up your book. So once you or your team upload images into here, everyone has access to them to actually go on and create pages. So you're all kind of working in the same shared space now. And one thing I would advise is to create albums into which to put these images. And you can think of albums just as an organizational tool, kind of like folders on your computer, where when I click on new album here and give it a name, so I'll just create an album for first day of school. And maybe I'll create another one for the fall play. Um, and now you can have albums as well. Like if I have an album for, say, just sports or activities. Now, if I wanted to create albums inside of albums, I can just click on sports and start creating more albums. So maybe we say basketball, football, volleyball, track, soccer. And then you could go into sports here and you'll see these kind of sub albums, and you could create albums inside of these, inside of those, inside of those, as deep into kind of the album tree as you want to go. So, basketball could have varsity, JV, A squad, B squad, grade level. You could have folders inside of those for each game, folders for, your posed shots, photos for your action shots. Any kind of organization here is really up to you, and it's what makes the most sense to you and your team. As a best practice, I would advise sitting down with your team and just spending a few minutes talking about what album structure makes sense to all of you. because you're going to be uploading images if you have other people logging in that you'll be uploading images they'll use, they'll be uploading images you'll use. And the key to making that process easy is just talking with each other and knowing, well, if somebody is going to upload an image for, in front of the school or a candid of this, it's going to go into that album. And just having a quick conversation and coming up with an album structure together is really going to be critical to going up when we go onto the pages to actually creating those, because somebody might upload an image 2 months ago and now you want to use it. You want to have that in a place that's intuitive to everyone. So now I've spoken a lot here about uploading images, so let's actually get some images into the book. So I'm going to click on first day of school here, this album, and now that's going to let me upload images right into this album. I can upload a couple of ways. The first is if I click upload, I'll be able to grab them either directly from my computer here, or I can get them off of Google Drive. Just for the demo here, I'm going to go through uploading from the computer, and you'll get this little pop-up, very familiar, and you can just go in here and find the images you want to upload, select them, and then press open. Now, once they're uploaded here, anyone will be able to use them. And once they've finished, you'll get this pop-up you see on the screen here asking if you want to tag these photos. Now, tagging relates to putting an index in your book. Many of you may not know what that is, but if you open up some yearbooks, in the very back, there'll be just a list of who is on which pages. So when kids get their yearbook, they can flip right to the back and see, oh, I'm on pages 8, 14, and 144. And then they can just go and look for their photos specifically or look up photos of their friends, things like that. You can also use this for what's called coverage reporting. That is, if you want to set a goal that every student in the school is in the yearbook more than 2 times or 3 times, you can also set those within Pictavo. That way, you're kind of ensuring that if you're doing a high school book, that the friends of the folks on the yearbook team aren't in the book 18 times, and then everybody else is in there twice. Now, I'm not going to go over that specifically during kind of the main part of the demo here, just because it's more of a high school option, might not be useful to many of you, but I can certainly go over during our question and answer time how to get that set up or talk about what that means. So for now, I'm just going to press OK to skip past that. And we've got some photos uploaded here. Now, clicking upload isn't the only way to upload photos. You can also simply navigate to where you've got those photos saved on your computer, click and hold, drag, and drop them into the browser there. That will upload them in the exact same way that you would by clicking upload. They get to the same place, they're treated the same way. Whichever way makes the most sense to you, whether clicking upload, whether dragging and dropping, entirely up to you. Both are completely valid ways of getting those photos into the program. Now, once you have photos in your yearbook here, you can also click on them to get some additional options here. And this is something that you're going to see in a lot of different areas of Pictavo, where if you're ever not sure where an option is, you're not sure how to make an option work, or you don't see something, click on the thing you want to work with, and then you're going to see additional stuff right here. In this case, you'll have the option of rotating it. That can be very useful if you're uploading images directly from like your phone and the phone was turned sideways. You might see it come in sideways, and then you can just fix that right here before actually going onto the page. You can rename it. You can continue tagging. You can download. You can preview the image in high res, and of course, you can delete it if it is not one that you want to use. Had a duplicate there, so I'll just clear that out. Now that we've got some images though here to work with, what I want to do is I want to move a little closer to actually getting these images on a page and starting to work on them. And to do that, we're going to click on View Ladder here over on the left-hand side. It's also a button from the main page you can go to in order to actually open it up. Once you open up the ladder here, you're going to see all of your pages kind of in a kind of nice order here. You'll see pages that have been completed. You'll see any kind of details or things that you've got created here. I've got a couple of things already kind of set up in here just so you can see what it looks like when the book isn't completely blank. Now, before I dive into building pages, though, I want to call out just a couple of things here that can be really useful for you in terms of planning out the book. So I already have a ladder section created here. And, I'm going to show my age a little bit here because when I was in school, we were still cutting and pasting yearbooks together, and then you'd send them off to the yearbook company and they'd scan them in. And when we did that, up on the poster of the yearbook room wall, there would be this ladder. It would say all the pages, and you would actually say what content went on those pages, and you may use a highlighter to say, okay, our yellow highlight, those are our portrait pages, and our pink highlighter, those are our activity pages. Well, with the advent of online here, you can now do all of that digitally. So I've created a section here called Team Blue. Now that section would just be, okay, folks, on Team Blue, a set of yearbook creators, they're creating pages just for this here. But this could just as easily be, if I delete this section here, click on it and press delete, I could just as easily say something like, okay, I'm going to have highlighters or highlighted colors for my, let's just say administration pages. So if we say administration is pages, we'll say 4, 5, 6, and 7. And we'll pick on this even, we'll assign the administration that same nice turquoise color. And now when I click add, I can look at the ladder here and see, hey, these are my administration pages. I've seen kind of what I did with Team Blue. I've seen topic like this. I've even seen people use it for like red are the pages that my principal still needs to approve, and green are the pages the principal has approved. So really, this is an optional thing, but it can be really powerful just to allow you to kind of scan through the book here and just kind of see. And then now we create a section here for administration, but we have, say, 4 administration pages. So you're going to want to further specify kind of what goes on those pages. And again, this goes back to that poster that hung up on the yearbook room wall when I was in school. You would just say, okay, on this page, you could write it on there. In this case, we're just doing that digitally here. Okay, the principal's letter is going to go here. And then we're going to have staff photos here. And maybe this page is going to be staff portraits. And they'll enough of them that we'll have more staff portraits here. When you put this little ladder description here in, beyond seeing it on the ladder, it'll also show up in this white bar up at the top when you're going through and creating pages. And again, ladder sections and these ladder descriptions that we call them are completely optional. However, speaking from experience here, having helped many, many people create yearbooks, the folks that go through and do the exercise of either creating sections or putting in descriptions or both have a lot smoother of a process creating the book and a lot fewer problems at the end when you get into crunch time. The reason for this would be going through and doing this is it's an exercise that ferrets out a lot of problems that are not necessarily intuitive. Like you might go through and assign all of your pages and realize, oh, I wanted to have 2 activities per page. But then if I have 2 activities per page, that takes up so much space that I can only have 6 portrait pages, which just doesn't work. So then, okay, now I draw that back and we're dealing with 3 activities per page. So now I can have 12 portrait pages, and that makes that math kind of work out with your page count. Again, completely optional. You don't have to do this, but the folks who don't tend to have a lot more moving around of pages, potentially even having to delete content they created because just no space for it. So highly recommend do this. But again, if you don't want to, you don't find it useful, not something that's going to actually print in the book. Now, as you're going through here and working, you have some additional tools up at the top here. We've got our sort. So if you only want to see pages assigned to particular users, you only want to see pages in a certain status, you only want to see certain sections, you can check that here. You can go through and add practice pages or practice covers here, which are just kind of sandbox areas for individual users. So if I say go in here, click on this, and I add a practice page, I'll just add one spread here. Then you're going to have this little special page up at the top, and it's a, works just like any other Pictavo page, but it won't print in your book. So what a lot of folks will do, especially if you have a team, is they'll go through and create these practice pages and give them to their users so that they have a sandbox area to play in. Now they can certainly just learn Pictavo by going onto a page and building, but a lot of folks find it to be a little less stressful, a little less risk to give them these practice pages or even practice covers to help kind of play around on and use the software. Again, completely optional. You don't have to do that, but that's certainly something that we both have a tool for and something you should consider. Last button here I'm going to go over before we jump onto pages is something that I promised I'd mention when we were talking about setting up users, and that is the usage and tracking. If you click on this, you can see the editing logs for all of the pages in the book. So what changes have been made by who and when. So if I click on page 12 here, I can see every edit that was made. I can see when they were made and by whom. We can actually, on the pages, see the edits themselves and even roll back to previous versions. But here you can just get kind of a list if you just wanted to know, hey, somebody went on its page and made a change. I just kind of want to know who it is. You can see that right here. You can even download all of this right to Excel and then open that up. And so if you're in a class where you're grading on participation, grading on effort, you can use every tool that Excel has in its arsenal of data analysis to go in and work on that there. So I'll just hop back into Pictavo here. So just know you have those tools kind of with you here to kind of track what other people are doing on the book. Now, I'm going to jump onto page 4 here, and I could do that either by clicking on the page number over on the side here, or I can get there just by double clicking. So if I double click on this page here, it'll open it up. And just like I said, you can see the ladder descriptions up at the top here. And right here, now we're on the page. So this is where you're going to actually lay out the page. We got a blank canvas here to work from. And to orient you to the kind of different parts of the software, I'll go over all of the different buttons down the side here, and I'll go over the buttons in the upper right. And that will give you kind of the building blocks to start creating and even complete a great looking yearbook. Now, as you're, I just opened up pages 4 and 5 here, but as you're working on pages, it's going to be very normal to just kind of move around, jump around between different pages. So I'm going to first start by kind of orienting you to how you move around. The first way you can do that is through this tool here. This allows you to move to previous pages or go back forward in pages. You can click forward and back. You can also type in a number here and press enter. But if it's easier for you to do that visually, we have the little pages flyout right here just to the right. First button here in the upper right corner. If you click on that, you see a little thumbnail of all of your pages, and you can just double click on one to jump to it. So whether you know the page number, whether you just kind of want to flip through the book in full page view, or whether you want to see all your pages and then potentially jump to one of them, you can do that right there. Now, you also over here on the left side have the ability with the home button to jump back to that main page, the one that we were on when we first started. If you click that, that's going to jump you back here. And that home button, that is present in every part of the software. So if you're ever not sure where you're at, you're not sure how to get somewhere, you can always click on the home button and it will jump you right back to that main page and you can go where you want. Now you also over here on the left side have this ladder button. And we'd already talked about the ladder, so I'm not going to go over that again. But this ladder here, when you click on that, it actually opens up on top of the page that you're already on. So everything I could do in the ladder before, I can do right from here. But the cool thing is I haven't actually left pages 4 and 5, still on those pages right there. Makes it very easy to hop in and out of that. You can just click the ladder button there again to collapse that back. Uh, just a very handy way to get that information. You can use that to navigate to pages too, but we certainly, the flyout and the numbers here are going to be a little bit quicker on that. Now, as you're going through and kind of working on pages, um, you're gonna see potentially changes get made. I'm gonna add something to this page and then just delete it. And when you have unsaved changes, you'll see the little save button over here light up in blue. We intentionally don't build in an auto save. We want you to be very intentional about any of the changes that you're committing back up to the server. Certainly, if you make changes and you don't like them, all you have to do to get the page back to what it was is just move to a different page. And when it asks you if you want to save, you simply say no. And then none of those changes will be committed. You can jump back to that page very easily and just say, okay, yep, I didn't like that. Um, so we have that built in here. And now, speaking of kind of saves and people working, I also want to talk about how Pictavo will handle all of you going onto those pages and working together for those of you who have a team. So for example, if say you and one of your users or other helpers is logged into the book, you can both be logged in. You can have as many people as you want logged in and working at the same time, but you'll only be able to have one person work on a given page at a given time. So if you are on pages 4 and 5 right here, if another user were to go to that, it would say, sorry, you're editing those pages. Please try again later. But the very second that you move away from those pages to a different page, or you go to the little profile icon and choose log out, that page will be released back into the system, and one of your users could go onto that page, see the change that you had made, and then go and make edits of their own. So as you're working, as you're assigning pages, you just have to be cognizant of that. It's just to keep people from, we never want to have a situation where somebody goes and tries to save over somebody else's page. Somebody goes and unintentionally undoes work somebody else does. Pictavo is engineered such that that can't happen, and that is kind of why we implement this change or this saving system in the way that we do. We always want to make sure you're never having to redo work. So now that we've talked a little bit about kind of moving around, saving, navigating, I really want to dive into the cool stuff that Pictavo can do in terms of actually putting a book together. So the next kind of set of tools that we have here down the left-hand side are going to be kind of the basic building blocks of your pages. You have the ability to drop a text box right on the page. So I click on that, I drop on some type, and I can start typing. I can add a photo box or a shape of a photo box onto the page here, kind of, put that wherever I want. I can go and add shapes. I can go and add lines. I can even go in and add photos here, but unless you're somebody who is really comfortable with design, somebody who really just kind of looks at a blank canvas and just sees a design and knows what they want to do, we have some great ways to get started here. And full disclosure, I'm not a designer. I love using our built-in art, our built-in templates, because we have this great organization here. We call them art collections. You could think of them like themes for your book. You could think of them like whole looks, anything where you can look at these and just make a whole book out of these. Everything we have in collections here, like I said, you could do the entire book using nothing but the art in one of these collections here. And we add new ones every year, just to make sure that we're staying fresh, we're staying on trend, so you can produce a yearbook that doesn't look like it was supposed to have been made 5 or 10 years ago. For the purposes of this demo here, I'm going to use Mixtape. Mixtape is one of my personal favorites. It is our 80s inspired theme. So a lot of neon, a lot of stuff like that. But we have art collections here for everything from scrapbook elementary all the way up to super copy filled high school books and really everything in between. If you look through those, you're going to find a style that you're going to love. I can guarantee it. Now, a collection is made up of different backgrounds, page backgrounds, full page templates, little, we call them snippets. They're mini templates that take up a portion of a page, and then accents, which are everything from clip art to word art to page embellishments to all the little bits and pieces you kind of use to polish off a page. Um, Now, if you're using templates, and I would recommend it, you can go in here and just simply start dragging and dropping. Everything in Pictavo works through a very simple drag from the left, drop on the right. I'll put, say, that one there, and I don't have to also put like the side by side one here. I can say something like, okay, well, I like that one there, and I like this one here. And the really cool thing about Pictavo and templates is once you add it to the page, it is as if you had designed it like that yourself from scratch. So you could say, wow, I really like this, but I don't need this much text. I'm just going to shrink up that text box. I'm going to make then this photo box bigger. I don't really like those shoes. I'll expand this text box over here. And you can even go then into the art button, the next one down here, go into templates, go into my templates, and actually save this page as a template. Call it header pages, and then apply whatever changes you made in template form onto the next page. So then I can maybe say, go to my next page. If I want to redo the same page over again, there's my template with all the changes right there. Makes it very easy to, create, say, activity pages. You do one, you get it how you like it. Get two, you spread, have it how you like it, save it as a template, and then easily go and apply that onto more pages after that. Um, Now, when you have, if you want to say here, like let's say we take that text box out, and I'm just gonna take these two, gonna lasso them, I'm gonna grab them, I'm gonna kind of shrink them up a little bit here, do that. If I wanted to say go in and put a photo box down at the bottom here, I can do that right here. Grab a photo box, stretch it out, help it fill up the space. If you want to move something very minutely, you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard to nudge. So I'm going to press the down arrow, and you're going to see that little box move a very small amount. Just kind of moving that around, kind of getting that how I want there. You can also, when you have something on the page, make adjustments to it with this menu over on the side. So this is going to be on the side, this little pop-up menu here is going to give you all of the options for adjusting whatever you have selected. In this case, we only have, say, a photo box selected, so we only have the two options here. But if I click on, say, a type box, I can go on here and I'll have text settings and I'll have my character styles area. You can go in and kind of save your changes on that right there. I'll go over type styles here in just a second. So as you're kind of going and working, you just know that you're going to get some extra options here, but you can also, you'll build your pages from here and then make further adjustments over on the right side. Now, I kind of made some adjustments to this template here. If I wanted to say on this side, I could do something like this. I like this, but pineapples don't really match my theme. So now I can go back into my art here, or my collections here, and go into, say, my mixtape, because that's what I'm using. And the cool thing about this is we have some snippets, and snippets are the mini templates, like I mentioned, but they're also designed in a modular way. So I took out kind of one art element, and I'm going to put in this art element. So let's say here, yeah, I'm going to put my seniors here. And we'll say Or, change my mind. Instead of seniors being here, we're going to have juniors here. Do something like that. Everything is kind of designed to sock it in. So you take out a quarter of a page, you can add in a quarter of a page. Makes it very easy to create kind of templates as well, just by mixing and matching. As you're kind of going through and working here, though, once you have kind of your templates going, if you want to change text, could do double click on something to type. If you wanted to make changes here, so I have this headline that's right on here. I could then, once I have my types, changes, text me 40 points, all this stuff set, I can go into character styles here and see additional styles. I don't have any created, so I can go into text settings and actually save this as a new style. So I could save that as, say, header. And then if, for example, we have this one here, or maybe we save this one as a subhead. Now, if I wanted to experiment with what will it look like if I change this from a subhead into a header, I can do that. Or, you know what, let's turn that back. Okay, there we go. So you can save in these character styles, and the character styles will help you be consistent page over page, kind of in a on your type. Now, that's kind of going over how text works there. Let's talk a little bit about how photos work. So we have these photos that we've uploaded. I can get into those by going to Photos over here on the left, by then going to Photos. I can then go to where I have them uploaded, and you'll also notice here you can create albums and upload here directly while you're working. So that's kind of the third way to get images into the book. You may do your entire book never going into that organized photos area. You might do all of your uploading right from here. And that is an absolutely valid way to work as well. So whether you're uploading from there, whether you're uploading here, everything goes to the same place. So now I could say something like, okay, let's take and we'll put this photo here, we'll put that photo there, and we'll put this photo down here. Now, if you don't like how something is cropped, want to get those kids in the back row, I can click on edit and crop, and I can drag down. Now, if we have something like this where we're getting somebody cut off, I can click on edit and crop over on the side here. I can drag kind of this around, but I can't really make the extra space for that. So maybe we do something like that, cut out one of those people, something like that. If we have a photo like this where we click on edit and crop, and we really can't make that work. Now I could go through, click on the photo box and actually expand the photo box out like this. But if I do that, well, it still is kind of hiding that person there. So what I could also do, I'm not sure how I want this. I could go and just say, I don't know what photo I want to put there. So I'm just going to click on it. I'm just going to click remove picture down at the bottom here. It's going to take the photo out, leave the photo box behind, and then you can come back and say, okay, well, let's get, there we go. A little bit better spaced one there. So that'll fit a little bit better with the theme that we're doing. So using these tools, whether you're using built-in text boxes, photo boxes, whether you're adding them with our text box, photo box shape, line tools here, you're going to kind of use those as the building blocks of your candid pages. But we have one more kind of page to talk about before we're done here, and that is the portrait pages. So Coffee Pond, when they have your photos ready to go, the ones that the kids at the school, they'll get those uploaded into the book for you. And then they'll notify you, kind of letting you know, hey, they're ready to go. But ahead of that, you can even go in and put these, we call them portrait grids. You can put them on the page here, and they're basically just keeping a place for the portraits to appear later once they're ready. You also have to add these if you, even if the portraits are uploaded. But here, let's just say, Okay, I go in here, and when I click on it, now I get, this is the one area where we have this. We have little sub areas within the portrait settings here because there are so many cool options with portraits. If I go into my grid settings here, I can adjust the number of rows and columns. I can adjust whether I want the names on the side or the names underneath, the spacing, all that good stuff. And I can say, okay, I'm going to start putting portraits here. And we'll say, okay, this is the juniors. So I click on my flow group settings. I go to choose the flow group. And depending on how your school is organized, Coffee Pond will set it so you'll either see teachers or you'll see grade. In this case, I'll just say, okay, I'll start putting my juniors here. And if you were doing teachers, you probably wouldn't even have more than one page. But for those of you who are in maybe middle schools or high schools, you can also kind of, as you're going here, like I just put the first 20 kids from the 190 juniors here. Now I can go on to my next page and I could certainly keep using templates. We have templates that have the portrait grids built in, but I can also simply click on this add portrait grid button. That drops kind of a blank portrait grid onto the page, and I can just flow like this. And let's say, I don't really want to have to go page by page and add all those remaining juniors. What I can do is I can go into choose the flow group. I can pick my partially flowed juniors up at the top here, 170 of the 190 left, and I can just check this box that says flow this group to multiple pages. Now I'm going to press this and I'm going to save. And what Pictavo is going to do is it's going to add a grid with all of these same settings onto not just this page, but every subsequent page until everyone is flowed. So this way, you can go and just get everybody taken care of in one fell swoop. Now, once you get these on the page, Coffee Pond is wonderful, but you will inevitably have people whose names are misspelled, names changed, people moved in, people left the school, and Pictavo makes it super easy to manage that and super easy to make those changes. So if I click on the little house icon here to head back to the main page, I have this whole student database area here. And student database is where all of these portraits live. And the really cool thing is any changes that I make here are automatically reflected on the page. So maybe Bryce here is B-R-I-C-E, make that change, press enter. Maybe I have somebody say down at the end of the alphabet, Trey Zakowski is actually Trey Adams, just going Z to A. Maybe we say Cameron here left the school. Cameron is not going to be in here anymore. I can click delete. That'll take Cameron's picture entirely out of the program. Maybe we have somebody who got their picture taken with a 10th grade. Maybe we say Destiny here isn't a 10th grader. Destiny is an 11th grader. I make that change. I press OK. Now, if I go back to the 11th grade, I could go back to that page by clicking on ladder or design book, but I can also simply click on the page number right up at the top. A little shortcut will actually jump you onto that page directly. So now I can see Trey Zakowski is now Trey Adams. Destiny's been moved from the one grade to the other. Bryce's name has been changed. And the really cool thing is I don't got to do anything on any of these pages. It is as if it was like that all along with no effort needed on my part. So it makes it really easy to do that. Now, those are kind of the building blocks of the pages. You're going to kind of use these tools on every page just to put the yearbook together. But I want to show you before we're done here a couple of cool things that Pictavo can do for you. So let's say I go onto this page and I decide, I don't really like that page anymore. I don't want that there at all. I'm going to make that change and I'm going to save. Now, say you come back a week, a day, a month, whatever later, and you say, you know what? I made a mistake. I really want that page back. You can click up here in the upper right on the Save History button, and you'll be able to click on that page. Here we see our most recent version. If I go up to a previous version, there's what I had before. Use the history. Yes, Pictavo has that in its memory, and you can bring back that page anytime. Some people will use that as a way to kind of do like an A/B test. They'll kind of show, well, show the principal, do you like this theme or that theme, or do you want to do this or that, or get feedback like that. Some people will use it if somebody just kind of goes on there and makes a change, and you kind of look at it and go, that's just not as good as what we had before. I want to turn that back. So we always have that kind of built in, makes it really handy to kind of get that back. And kind of speaking as well about getting feedback kind of external to the program, we have this share in PDF feature built in. Like, let's say you wanted to take page 6 here and show it to somebody without giving them access to the software. Maybe that's a principal. Maybe these are portrait pages, and you actually want to put the portrait page in the hands of the teacher who teaches those kids to say whose name is misspelled, who's missing, who needs to be added, anything like that. You can make a PDF out of some or all of the book literally anytime you want. In this case, I'll just do page 6 here, and I'll save it to my device, but you can also even email a copy of that directly from within Pictavo. So you could have, like, say, do your portrait pages and then use Pictavo to just fire off emails to all of your teachers and say, hey, get back to me. What changes do I need to make? I'll just press save on here. And the process of creating PDFs is really quick. This will be done here in just a second. When it's done, you'll see the little profile icon turn from kind of the wheel that it has here. It'll turn into a little PDF logo. But this can be a really handy thing, not just for having somebody help decide on a theme, not just for having like portrait pages proofed, but this can also be something, and a lot of our schools will do this, where before the book is turned in, they'll take it to an administrator, the principal, whoever is kind of overseeing the yearbook process, and they'll say, hey, here's the yearbook, it's done, we're ready to turn it in. Can you look it over or sign off on it? I've even heard of some schools where they'll actually take a printed copy and have the principal or the administrator sign off on every page. That way, if there's something in there they don't want that you would think is appropriate, well, you signed off on that page, it's right here. As you can see here, this little PDF is done. Now, the cool thing is you don't have to wait for the PDFs to actually be completed either. You could go and just keep working. You could log out, come back the next day. As you can see, a single page creates really quickly, but if you were doing the whole book, that might take 15, 20 minutes, and simply don't have that to wait. So you could just start that process, log out, go about your day, and when you come back to the yearbook the next day, boom, it's ready to go there. And the PDFs, as you can see here, they're high res, they're super sharp, just has a little tiny disclaimer, but otherwise it's exactly what you would expect to see. So this is everything really that I wanted to show you about Pictavo, but I also want to assure you we're here to help you every step of the way with the process. Um, if you need help with the program, there's a lot of different ways you can get it. The first is you can reach out to your Coffee Pond reps. They're amazing. They can help you with a lot of different things like that. We also, have, say you're working at 2 a.m. and nobody's available and you want to see something. We have this amazing integrated help system here. So if you click on help, we've got not just, video lessons. If you've got a class and you want them to go through stuff, we have a variety of different articles on how to do literally everything in the program. The whole thing is searchable. And then finally, we have, if you go to the little profile icon and choose support, we have our phone number, we have our email, and you can even email us directly from within the software. If you need help, if you want advice, if there's anything that we can do to help make this process smoother for you, please do not hesitate to reach out. We're here to help you every step of the way. So with that, thank you very much for taking the time to see Pictavo here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to transition off to kind of question and answer. So I'm going to stop the recording here, and then we will open it up to chat, and I'll go through different little things here like this. So for those of you who are watching this recording, thank you very much for taking the time to see Pictavo. I look forward to working with you on your yearbook. Okay. And with that, bear with me here while I stop the recording. For anybody who doesn't have any questions, please feel free to drop off. For those of you who would have questions, would like me to kind of go over stuff, why don't you fire those away into chat right now, and I will go through and get those answered for you. For those of you dropping off as well, thank you for taking the time to see Pictavo here. But just toss any questions, those of you who are sticking around, toss them into chat.